Something that you tweeted just last night. Your tweet said, "I believe survivors, leaders should step up and do the same." And you linked to a story about Jagmeet Singh being endorsed by Wab Kinew, the NDP Manitoba leader. I also think our audience is going to need a little bit of context here. 14 years ago, Kinew was facing 2 charges of assault by of assaulting his former partner. Those charges were eventually stayed, and his former partner has said that she stands by the allegations. Wab Kinew, though, has said, "I can't accept responsibility for things I did not do." We should also say that Kinew was facing off against your father in the leadership race that he just won. Obviously, Wab Kinew was victorious. I want to know, though, what would you like Jagmeet Singh to do about this tweet last night?
Well, it was a particular response to a quote that he gave, and I felt it was a quote that made it very clear that that there wasn't that support of survivors. I will say, I don't know the survivor personally, but I know her family. They're connected to my constituency, and I've been a long-time feminist activist, and for me, it's absolutely essential that we stand by survivors.
Can you explain what the quote was that troubled you so much?
Well, there was a great defense of his friend Wab Kinew, and I would say it's up to him to make those kinds of just decide what kind of statements he wants to make. But I think when we're talking about gender-based violence, when we're talking about something like this, it's absolutely essential that we believe survivors.
Jagmeet Singh's camp would, I think, very much take issue with the idea that it was a great defense. In fact, they contacted us to say that they're not so keen about the headline in that article that explicitly suggests that he stood by Mr. Kinew. And I do want to give you one quote from the article where Mr. Singh says, he's made it, and the he here is Mr. Kinew, he's made it very clear he is a strong supporter of women's rights, of gender justice. So the person I know now is someone who has been very clear on these issues. So what more would you like him to say?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, hearing this response is new to me.
That was in the article you tweeted.
Yeah, but a concern with the headline, et cetera. I mean, I think the issue here, though, is we need clear statements from our leaders about believing survivors, standing by survivors. I believe Tara Hart. I believe women who come forward with their experience of gender-based violence, of sexual violence, and I don't think there's any room to equivocate. As leaders, particularly, I mean, as progressive leaders, it's not enough to have a platform on gender-based violence. It's not enough to just talk about how we care about these issues. When push comes to shove, when there's an issue here in front of us, I think it's very critical that we say unequivocally that we believe survivors.
Okay, well, the majority of the delegates in Manitoba felt that Mr. Kinew was clear enough because they chose him as leader. Are you saying that they made the wrong choice?
I mean, I'm clear on the record as what I've said about the importance of believing survivors. There is information that's come out since the leadership as well. But regardless, I mean, the concern that I raised here was with respect to comments made by Jagmeet Singh. And again, like I said, on an issue where, if you're running for leader of the NDP, it's absolutely essential. And I think so many of our activists and supporters would expect that we would take a very clear stance in believing survivors and recognizing that to do otherwise is something that re-traumatizes and makes the reality that so many survivors face more difficult.